So I want to begin by sharing with you one of my favorite quotes. I once heard somebody say, "Blessed is the man that sees a need, recognizes the responsibility, and actively pursue becoming the answer." As it's already been said, my name is Larry McKenzie. Most of the people that know me well, they simply call me Coach. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story about that a little bit later. I'm hopeful that at the end of the day, as we leave, and we've heard nothing but great things, and so, again, I want to thank all of you all for taking time out of your day to come together, and not as a staff, but I think one of the things that we want to do, and I've been given notice, is that I think most people, instead of being on a staff, would prefer to be on a team. So I want to take this first opportunity to welcome all of you all to the Pillsbury United Communities Charter School team. If I can, I want to just take a quick survey. And I have a couple people that I picked out before this, and so I'm going to call on them real quick. Amy, where you at? Okay, Amy. If I was to give you a piece of coal, place a piece of coal in your hand, what would you do with it? I'd save it for a cold night. She'd save it for a cold night. Latasha, where you at? Is she hiding from me back there? Okay, I think Latasha's, okay. All right, I'm going to move on to Sean. Sean, if I was to give you that piece of coal, what would you do with it? Start a fire with it. I always, when I get an opportunity to talk to educators, I always like to ask them that question. If I was to give you a piece of coal, what would you do with it? Most time the response is, I don't know. I'll throw it away. And the reality of it is that every morning, about 7:45 a.m., in this country, kids, brown and black, that often look like a piece of coal walk into our buildings. And the reality of it is that most people don't know what to do with it, or they throw it away. And so, if you think about coal, it's often described as dark brown. And some people see it on the surface as having little value at all. But also, one of the traits of coal is that they say it's combustible. And those are the kids that we call special ed, and we give them names like ADD and ADHD. And so one of our biggest challenges that I want to challenge you with today, that as you go back into your buildings next week, I want you to begin to see those kids a little bit differently. See, one of the things that I've learned about coal, that if you add a little bit of pressure, and you send them through a system, that coal have the potential to become a diamond. And instead of looking at our kids as potential diamonds, we see them as that piece of coal. One of the things that I often say is this. I say this when I get an opportunity to talk to kids and to the adults. I'm a believer, and Antonio mentioned it this morning, that we just don't use the term around achievement gap. Now, I'm the son of two educators. My mom was an elementary school teacher. My dad taught special ed for 34 years. And I don't believe that there's such thing as a failing kid. Because when we talk about equality and being equal, I guess I'm just crazy enough to believe that the maker of this computer believes in perfection. So obviously there's nothing wrong with the hardware. The challenge is the software and the programmers. And you are the programmers. So we've got to begin to look at our kids differently, talk to our kids differently. I want to share a quick little story, and I'll kind of share my story a little bit as I begin to try to wrap this up. At the tender age of 23, and that wasn't that long ago. As I was graduating from college, a good friend of mine, he approached me about joining an organization called Big Brothers, now called Big Brothers and Big Sisters. And I have to be honest that coming out of school, that I was one of those people, as I said, growing up in a household with educators, the last thing in the world that I ever thought that I wanted to do was be around kids. And so I was about trying to pursue and to make as much money as I thought that I possibly could. But Clyde was very, very persistent, and for whatever reason, he thought that I would make a good mentor. And so Clyde didn't give up, and I ended up becoming a big brother to a 13-year-old young man from a single-family home. And at 13, you all know it, I mean, that's middle school. Most times at 13 years old, I mean, that's the age, and Jules, this particular young man, you know, he was at that age where he was having some challenges at home, challenges in school, just kind of tough to deal with. But the one thing that Jules and I had in common was a love for the game of basketball. And so one day when Jules was in school and they were playing outside, and the principal came along and said, you know, this year we don't have anybody to coach the team, and so I don't think we're going to be able to have a basketball team this year. And so Jules, being who he was, Jules turned to the principal and he said, I have a coach, and he volunteered none other than his big brother. And so I won't begin to go into the discussion that we had later on about being volunteered. But I have to tell you that I thought at that particular moment that I was going to go into a situation and I was going to impact a 13-year-old's life. But that decision that I made impacted me and changed my life journey. It is because of Jules that I would go on to coach high school basketball. And still being young and naive, I would go to a inner city school, Minneapolis Patrick Henry, and I thought that as a basketball coach that I would just walk in and talk about offense and defense and out-of-bounds plays. But I walked into a school where the majority of the kids lived below poverty, 99% on free and reduced lunch. One of my players moved 7 times in 9 months. My star players ate Skittles for breakfast. I had a kid that slept on a different teammate's couch every night. But one of the things that those kids learned, they learned to look beyond their circumstances. And so with that, the reason that I tell you the story is not out of arrogance or to brag, but I want to tell you that those kids will later go on to become the first team in the 100-year history of Minnesota to win 4 consecutive state titles. But more importantly, 100% graduation, 100% college. 5 National Honor Society students. And so I tell you that because I know that it's possible. See, when I became a big brother, I honestly thought that I was too young to make a difference. I thought that I didn't make enough money to make a difference. I thought I didn't have enough time to make a difference. And so what I'm here to tell you today, that it doesn't matter how old you are, income, color, any of those kind of things, that we can make a difference. And so what were some of those things that we began to help our kids see themselves differently? Because I'm a believer that if I could change your mind, I could change your life. And so every day, twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day, we would go over our creed, that this is the beginning of a new day. I have been blessed with this day to use as I will. I can waste it or use it for good. For what I do today is important. I'm exchanging a day of my life for it. I must decide whether it's good or bad, gain or loss, success or failure, in order that I will never regret the price that I paid for it. I'm a big fan of John Wooden. When you want to talk about time and equality, John Wooden says that at the strike of midnight, regardless of who you are, each one of us are given 86,400 seconds. The question becomes, what are we going to do with it? So as I said, today for us have been about creating choice, change, and connections. I thought when I became a Big Brothers that I was making a choice to change a 13-year-old young man's life. My life was changed. And a year and a half ago, I lost Jules at the age of 43. But we will forever be connected. And so today I just want to close by encouraging you. Our kids need champions. And your role is to be that champion. And what is a champion? Well, Michael Jordan says that champions are people that are willing to do what no one else is willing to do. And what does that mean for us? That means that sometime at 3 o'clock, when the bell rings, somebody still needs us. Lastly, I want to say to you, our kids need commitment. And what is commitment? Commitment is never giving up, never giving out, never giving in. And so my challenge to you is that when you return to those classrooms on Monday, I want you to join me in the mantra of saying, I refuse to lose. I refuse to lose. Let me hear you. I refuse to lose. I refuse to lose. It's about our babies. Thank you, choice, change, and connections.